Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And a special welcome to all Year 6 teachers who survived SATS Week last week. I hope you all had a very restful weekend and have lots of lovely things planned for your students over the rest of the summer term. My name is Tori. I'm a former primary school teacher and now the primary lead at Century. Now, I've been very excited to host today's webinar, and to be honest, in our tech test a little earlier, I was feeling a little starstruck because this afternoon we're joined by Lee Parkinson, better known as Mr. P. Now, I've followed Mr. P on Facebook since I was an NQT and have enjoyed many hilarious posts, videos, songs, and lip syncs to capture the wonderful shared experiences that are unique to primary teaching. Now, for me, it was always really nice to feel united with other primary teachers worldwide who were feeling exactly the same way as me. But aside from entertaining us on social media, Lee is still teaching and is passionate about using technology in the classroom. He puts pedagogy at the heart of everything he does and is on a mission to get schools working smarter, not harder. Lee has worked with many schools in the UK and worldwide, providing excellent CPD to allow teachers to embed technology successfully and transform learning. So today, Lee will be sharing his top 5 tech tools. These tools can all be used in the classroom to support children with their learning across the curriculum. He'll demonstrate how he uses each tool in his classroom and show you how you can utilize them to enhance teaching and learning within your classrooms. Throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can at the end. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Mr. P.
Thank you very, very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're going to find the session really, really useful. So yeah, we're going to take a look at sort of 5 tech tools that you can use in the primary classroom. And I was and ahhing about which ones to share, because obviously it's not just 5 that I use. So what I sort of, there's plenty. And if you want to know more around technology and how I use it in the classroom, my website, mrpict.com, is your go-to starting point for that. But what I decided to do was choose 5 that I are using quite a lot at the minute. 5 that can, 4 can be used on any device. So I know some schools are Chromebook, some schools are Windows, some schools are iPad. My personal preference is the iPad. I do love that tech tool, but 4 out of the 5 can be used on all of them. There's just one that is an app, but hopefully you'll see the reason why I'm sharing that. So we're gonna get straight into it because we've not got too much time today. If we do find ourselves with extra time, I've got a little extra website that I've been enjoyed using it as well, but we'll see how we get on for time with that one. So I am going to share my screen and we are going to start with this little tool here called Mentimeter. Now Mentimeter is absolutely free. You can create a series of questions. As you design your questions, there's lots of different ways in which you can present the children's answers. So you can use it for quizzes, you can use it for, sort of data handling activities. You'll also notice this word cloud option as well, which is what we're going to do to begin with. So if I tap, once I've designed my question, it's absolutely free, just sign up with email, password. I can tap on present. Let's just not make it full screen. And then if you've all got access to a device, what I would like you to do for me is just go to this web address, menti.com. So you'll see at the top of your screen there, menti.com. It'll ask you to put a room code in. So if you just put that room code in there, which is 23662877, you should be able to then log yourselves in. And I think you'll get like 10 text boxes. I think that's what I put in the settings. So have a go at answering that question. And you don't have to fill out all 10 text boxes, just as many as you can. And then we'll see how it sort of presents itself on the screen. What will the children see when you're doing it in class? And then, we'll have a little chat about what else we can do with it. So I'll just give you a minute there to have a go at that. you should be able to add more than one answer as well. So once you do tap submit, you should still be able to then add even more ideas in. Super. So we've got lots of people adding in ideas. So this is that word cloud option. You know how word clouds work. Any word that's repeated appears bigger. So the most common sort of reasons in there, the same every time I do this on my training sessions. You've got sort of confidence, knowledge, money. Unfortunately, I can't do too much about that. But the big one there is time, and that seems to be the most common answer whenever I do this training. So again, with one of the tools we'll look at a little bit later, if we use it the way I do in school, you'll find yourself saving a lot of time. So that's one example of how you can use it. So I use this word cloud tool when it comes to things like pre and post learning tasks. Maybe at the beginning of a topic, I'll do this, use Mentimeter to see what the children already know about the topic we're going to be exploring. And then obviously at the end of the topic, we can repeat it again, and hopefully that word cloud's going to be full, much more full of useful vocabulary that we've covered over the topic. We'll go on to the next question, just to show you another way in which you can present the information. So again, now you should be able to go to slide, and you should be able to just share with me a couple of examples of how you have been using technology in your school recently. So again, slightly different. You've only got one text box, but you can put multiple answers in there.
I couldn't hear what you said. Sorry.
It's my watch going off there. So yeah, again, just have a go at sharing a few answers in. Okay, so this is one of the sort of scrolling feature option. So as children enter their ideas, it all appears on this sort of scrolling grid. So again, a slightly different way of presenting the information, but really, really useful. So if I wanted to do a little bit of shared writing with my class, and let's say we've been practicing a particular sentence type, we could all have a go at sharing our ideas. Or if the children have done some research about a particular topic, it might be that we want to find out some facts about the Queen in the run-up to the Platinum Jubilee, and then the children can all contribute their ideas. And once we have finished our Mentimeter, if I go back to the settings, go back into my slides here, you will see there is the option to, where is it? Share, no, it's not share. There is I think they've changed it now. Oh, there we go. It's right in front of me, download results. So if I go on download results here, you can see that I can download the slides, or I can obviously download that word cloud if I want to add it to my working wall, whatever it might be. So you get the idea there. So then sometimes if you've done sort of shared research, anything like that, what I will then do is I will share the PDF to a place like Seesaw, so all the children can then access all these facts and information to then use with the next lessons work that we are going to do. So that's Mentimeter, absolutely free to use, works on every device, and just a quite a nice way. And what's great about it as well, not that you always want to do this, but you know, sometimes you might have children who are reluctant to share ideas in front of the whole class. They might not want to put themselves out there. This, because it's anonymous, allows them to share ideas and it might make them want to contribute a little bit more to some of the discussions and so on. So there's lots of different ways in which you can use it, whether it's, you know, generating words vocabulary wise. So you could be looking at, give me other words instead of this word, that word cloud idea. Like I say, topic word, anything like that. Right, so that's Mentimeter, tool number 1. Hopefully you found that nice and useful, and you can give that a go in class. The next tool I'm going to share with you is an online reading platform that I have been using in class. It is called Pickatale. So Pickatale. Now, there are lots of different reading platforms out there. I'm not going to name them all, but what you tend to find is a lot of these reading platforms are quite expensive. And one thing that schools don't have at the minute, as pointed out in that Mentimeter, is a lot of money. So what I love about Pickatale is it is an online reading platform that you as a teacher can sign up to, and you can set your class up with logins, and they can go home or in class, they can log in and access hundreds of online interactive ebooks for free, right? So it is absolutely free for schools to use. You can upgrade to get more books. So they have just recently added in a load of Marvel and Disney books that I think you do have to pay for, but there are thousands of other books that you can access. Now, as a teacher, you can then keep track of how often the children are reading, what books they're reading. You can even go in and set particular reading tasks if you want. But if I just jump in to my iPad here for you to see, no, not that one. We want my iPad. Let's try that again. It was working a minute ago. Let's see if that's going to come on. Let's just move this to the side. It's thinking about it. So I will just show you what the children see when they log in. So once you put your class in, they'll all get a little login, and again, they can download the app, they can go through the web browser, and why is that not? Just bear with me a second. Come on, worked before. There we go, right. So this is the app here, one of the little parrot towards the bottom, and that's the green one here. So I am logged in as a child, and you can see here, very, very sort of engaging interface, lots of different categories. What you will find as well is once the children start using this app, it uses sort of similar algorithms to things like social media, but in a much more positive way. So let's say the children start reading a book about space, okay? The next time they log on, Pickatale will create a series of books similar to what they've been reading to try and engage them a little bit more. So again, for me, this is not about replacing reading books. We never want that, but this is a way in which the technology can complement all of the other reading that we're doing. So if I do go into space, there's books, non-fiction books, there's fiction books that we can read. I can go into the search option, and there's different categories. There's obviously reading levels, and there's also books we can search with quizzes. So if I choose one of these, so let's say I choose one of the books. Let's see what we've got. Let's just go for that. The Monster Snake. So again, you see all those related books there. I've got autoplay or read myself. So what's great about this is it's accessible. So if there are children who might struggle to decode some of the words themselves, we can have the book read to us.
Monster Snake, the fearsome titanoboa. 60 million years ago, deep in the tropical rainforests of South America, an enormous serpent.
So I can pause that. I can read it myself if I want to. I can tap on certain parts of the picture.
Titanoboa.
And it tells me what it is.
Cloud.
So the children can build the vocabulary from the visual clues. There's loads of, and then obviously at the end of the book, they can then do a quiz. Yeah, so they can then play a quiz to check their understanding of what they've read. All their results are there for you to see as a teacher. Obviously, the children can then check in on how well they're doing with what they've read. They can set little goals, how often they're reading, lots of information there. And like I say, schools can access this tool for free, right? It doesn't cost anything. So it's well worth checking that out, setting your class up, and again, just giving children the opportunity to explore if you've got a bit of free reading time in class, or obviously if they've got devices at home. So that is Pick a Tale, which I've been using quite a lot. My children at home have been using it as well. And that interactive element it just makes it really fun, really engaging. So yeah, so that's Pick a Tale as well. Right, let's have a look at the tool that, you know, who are hosting this webinar, because a tool Century is absolutely brilliant. So this is something that I've been using this academic year. I introduced it initially with my year 4 class. So I work part-time in my school, and for part of the week I will work with a year 4 class. So I was given the opportunity to explore Century, initially sort of pitched as a sort of great catch-up tool for COVID, but I just think it's a great tool to use no matter when you introduce it. And what I love about it is that it's individualized to the child. Now it is packed full. So key stage 2 wise, well, I think it does higher than key stage 2, but for my school, primary school, it covers everything in English, maths and science from sort of year 3 up to year 6. And if, again, I share my screen with you, I should be able to go into the interface to sort of just show you what it sort of looks like. So what you can do as a teacher is, again, set up your class, and you can set them assignments yourself, right? So if there is a particular topic that you want to focus on, so I know, again, a lot of my teachers have been using it because we are due for the dreaded Ofsted sort of visit at any point. Now, I've not got time to go into my thoughts on Ofsted, but we know that they will base a lot of their judgments by speaking and questioning children about what they learned last year, previously, whatever it might be, which, again, not a massive fan of, seeing as though I work with these children, so know that most children are the most unreliable sources of information on this planet. But, you know, it is what it is. So, you know, one way in which we've been using Century is to create sort of assignments, just recapping and reminding children of things they have learned previously. So that can be done in the assignments option there. Now, whether you create an assignment or just use the built-in paths, depending on the year group that you're working with, what the way it sort of works this on a very basic level, and I'm sure the team at Century can explore everything in a lot more detail. And I would recommend, you know, giving this a go, maybe having a little trial, seeing how you get on. But every child, when they log in, will have this recommended path, and this will either be the assignments that you have uploaded or you have set off, or just, you know, topics that they will cover throughout the year. But what you'll notice with each topic, there is a diagnostic sort of test for the children to do. So at the beginning of each task, the children will do a little bit of a test, not very low stakes, nothing, no pressure or anything like that. There's always that option of I don't know. So the idea with this is that the children are just honest and try their best with it, because what the program then does is, based on the results from this diagnostic test, it will then create a program of study for the children to follow that basically plugs the gaps. So if it's vocabulary with this topic, if it's a particular strand that the children haven't quite grasped, there will then be a video explaining, talking through it, and some activities and questions for the children to then practice and sort of plug those gaps. So that's what I love about it, is it's not sort of a one task for the whole class to do. It's individualized to the children, and they can log in whenever, wherever. So we've done a little bit of this in class to obviously introduce it, but it's mostly been something that the children have done at home. And we've had some really positive feedback from parents as well. They've loved being able to use it at home, being able to see what we are covering in class, being able to see the progress their children are making. And it has some really detailed, where is it now? Some really detailed insights. So if I go into one of the classes here, there we go. So I'll be completely honest with you. Out of everyone in my school, I'm probably not the best person to talk about all of this sort of in-depth analysis, because I'm only there part-time. So all the teachers in my school are the ones who look at this and go into a bit more detail with it. But you can see it's in, really sort of detailed, sort of pulls up the interventions that the children might need. You see that little graph there on the right-hand side. The assignments that they've done, but I've been keeping tabs on how often the children log in, sort of rewarding those who are going over and above, not necessarily doing the best, but who's actually logging in regularly and accessing this content to help them plug those gaps. Because whether we like to admit it, and despite what the government think by getting kids to do SATs tests and all sorts, there will be gaps. And so a tool like this gives you so much content. And I know some staff are analysing it a lot more than others. Others are using it a little bit more for sort of homework. But having a tool like that maps out absolutely everything and makes that learning path individual to that child. So it's not necessarily that they're competing against everyone else in the class. They're focusing on just improving their knowledge and understanding. So if you have got any questions on Century, like I say, I've been using it in class, been really, really impressed with it. Using it quite a lot for obviously things like times tables, practice in year 4. But obviously any questions in the Q&A, and then the team at Century at the end of this session will be able to help anything that I can't answer myself. So that is Century in a nutshell. I could talk a lot more about it, but I do want to sort of move on to some of the other tools as well. So yeah, do check that one out, because it is absolutely brilliant. Right. So the next app that we are going to have a look at is it's an app, and it's the only app. So everything else up to now, Mentimeter, Century, Pickertail, accessible on any device. But this next app is available as an app on your iPad. It's actually a Microsoft app, but it is absolutely brilliant. If you've ever been on any of my training, I've actually got a couple of CPD sessions coming up virtually. I talk a lot about how I believe technology can really remove barriers for certain children. And I think we should, as educators, be actively looking at ways in which this technology can remove barriers. It shocks me, not shocks, it not worries me. I suppose it does, it disappoints me is probably a better word, that we've got access to this technology, yet so many teachers out there aren't utilising it to support some of the children in their class. And I'm not saying that's down to teachers individually. It's more about the system and the way that we're forced to evidence work and this, that and the other. But I've got children myself. I've got 11-year-old triplets, and I've got 2 identical boys and a girl. And my 2 boys are both dyslexic, so they really struggle with certain aspects of their reading and writing. This term, for the first time in their school, because I've always admired how positive their mindset is with their school. They do find it difficult, they do find it hard because of their dyslexia, but they've always kept a real positive mindset up until, I'd say, the last term, where it turned into SATs and they hated every minute of it. And for the first time, they were coming home saying that they hate school because all they're doing is SAT. Things like that really do annoy me. But there are certain tools that can support my boys, and I'm sure there's children, as we demonstrate this app, that will come to mind that you think this tool will really benefit. So the app that we're looking at is this one, Microsoft Office Lens. So this is a free tool, absolutely free. It's from Microsoft. And initially, it was just sort of a scanning app. So you could scan documents, you could scan pages, but over time they've updated it to include even more features. So let's say I just get a page. Now I'm just going to turn it over this way here, like so. So if I wanted to scan a page from this book, what I can do is I can hold my iPad over the text and take a picture of it like so. Okay, so we're happy with that. We can obviously tidy it up if we need to, but I think the text is more than clear. So if I now tap on confirm, that will now scan it. And obviously, you've got a few options there if you do want to use that scanned document. But what the tool that I want to sort of focus on a little bit more here is when I tap done, again, you will see that we can export it as a photo, PDF. We can import it into PowerPoint, but you'll see towards the bottom, there is a share to immersive reader option. Now, this is the bit I want to sort of focus on. So the app allows you to scan as many pages as possible, but it's the immersive reader that I really want to sort of focus on, because this is such a powerful tool that can remove barriers and make learning so much more accessible to your pupils. So you will see now that it is turn that text, as you can see here. If I was to press the play button.
About the authors. Lee and Adam Parkinson are two brothers from Manchester who work in primary education.
So it can be read aloud to the children, which I think is an incredibly powerful tool. And this is something my boys use with a lot of their comprehension homework. They could scan the text, have it read to them, so they could think more about the comprehension. Not with everything, but, you know, some of the text they were being asked to access were a little bit, you know, some of the vocabulary was a little bit above them, and so they did struggle to decode it themselves, whereas with this, they were able to have it read to them, and they've got the understanding there. Now, you'll notice that the background is blue as well, so if I press the AA in the top right-hand corner, I can obviously make the text bigger, smaller, change the text font if I so wish, and then we can also change the background. So if I wanted a yellow background, if that might make it a little bit easier for the children to access, I can do. What you will also notice is with certain words, they are of different colour. So over and as are coloured sort of yellow there. I don't know if you know why. I don't know if you can work out why. I will show you. So just, again, in the top right-hand corner, there is a little wand icon. So if I tap that wand icon, what you can do is you can have certain parts of speech highlighted. So you've got nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. We can again change the colour if we want, if there's a particular theme you use in class. You can also do syllables as well, but I don't tend to use that one. And so now we can highlight certain word types as well, if that's a SPAG focus. And what you'll also notice as well is with certain words, if the children tap onto them, they will get a visual clue as to what that word means. So it's almost like a visual dictionary built in to the tool as well. So I just think it's incredibly powerful. There you go, you got that picture dictionary on there as well. And loads of different benefits, but just being able to have the text read to the children for them to access, I think is absolutely brilliant. And the fact they can use the camera to capture the text. So this will remove barriers in lots of different ways in my classroom. So let's say, for example, we're doing word problems in maths. If I've got a group of children who struggle to decode text, that creates a barrier in that math lesson. Whereas with a tool like this, the children can scan the questions, have them read to them, and then focus on actually solving the problems. That doesn't necessarily become a sort of barrier. So yeah, so that's Microsoft Office Lens. I was umming and ahhing about whether to do an app, because I know some schools might not have access, but that is just such a powerful tool that can support children in so many different ways. I couldn't not mention it. So just to recap then, we've had a look at Mentimeter as a way of capturing ideas into one space. We've looked at Century and Pick a Tale, and then we've looked at the Microsoft Office Lens app. So the next app that I want to share with you is up there as one of my favourite, if not best tech tool that I used or have used in class over the past few years. I am a massive advocate for utilising technology to support children in lots of different ways. That's my main focus when it comes to utilising technology, and all the training that I do. That's the main theme, is how can this technology enhance and transform the curriculum, and hopefully you've seen a couple of examples there. But I'm also a massive advocate for working smarter, not harder. And I honestly believe that when technology is utilised effectively, it can help us as teachers do our job more effectively and efficiently. And so the next app that we're going to have a look at, which I can't do a training session without talking about it, and that app is Seesaw. Now, Seesaw is not the only app on the App Store that does what we're going to have a look at. You have the likes of Showbie, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. Down in EYFS, you've got like Tapestry. Class Dojo now has a lot of similar tools. So, it's not me saying scrap. If you're using one of them, scrap it, use Seesaw, because they're much of a muchness. But the reason I prefer Seesaw is, again, it's free. So everything, that we're going to look at in this short little tutorial will not cost you a penny. You can pay into it to, unlock other features. But I always suggest using the free version first. And then after maybe a term, you can decide whether it is something that's going to have an impact. Number two, it's designed to be very, very child friendly. Now, if we look back at that Mentimeter that we, teacher reluctance, teacher fear was one of the big issues. And that tends to put a lot of teachers off if they don't think that they can get their own heads around it. They don't, whereas, and some of these other tools with some of my staff, I knew it would be a barrier. They'd look at it and go, whereas Seesaw is designed to be very child friendly. And if it's child friendly, it tends to be sort of reluctant teacher friendly, if I can say that. And then thirdly, most importantly, it is designed to be child led. With some of the others, it's the teacher who does a lot of the evidencing, like Tapestry down EYFS, the teacher has to do a lot of the evidencing. Whereas with Seesaw, if you utilize it the way that I encourage, where children take ownership, not only does that have a huge impact on purpose and giving children real purpose with their learning, you're also embedding a lot of the digital literacy curriculum, but it's also making your life easier. So digital literacy, the sort of aspect of the computing curriculum, which covers sort of e-safety, online safety, is for me one of the most important, if not the most important subject we teach at school at the minute. And I think it's one of the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for here, failures of our education system, the fact we don't do more around internet safety, e-safety, that digital literacy. It's so important. Our children are more connected than ever before. Yet if you think about it realistically, most schools will only do things around internet safety on one day of the year, which tends to be Internet Safety Day. And it drives me potty, because for me, every day should be Internet Safety Day. So another massive benefit of Seesaw is that children are learning about the internet by actually using the internet in a safe environment. Okay, so if I do a very, very quick little run through of it here. So I had this sort of training class that I use in all of my training sessions. And this is sort of what it looks like. So it is essentially, I suppose you can almost describe it as a sort of social media a feed for your class, a social media page. So on the left-hand side, you've got all your feed of work. On the right-hand side, you've got your class list. So it takes you all of 2 minutes to set your class up on Seesaw. And the way I sort of introduce it initially is just to get teachers to use it to evidence learning that previously, and it's something I cannot believe some schools still do, any sort of task that you would normally take photos of the children doing, any practical activities, and then you would waste, I don't know how many hours of your life a day printing it, photocopying it, trimming it down and sticking it in the exercise book, right? I have a few sort of teaching hills that I'm willing to die on. And one of them is that I don't think you can teach a broad and balanced curriculum by doing book scrutinies or book looks or whatever it might be. You can't teach a broad and balanced curriculum because there's no way in which you can evidence all of the curriculum in an exercise book. And I think that's quite toxic in a lot of schools, this book scrutiny idea, in that what it does is creates a very dangerous mindset in teachers, where teachers feel they're being deemed a success by what their book looks like and not what the children have learned or not what the children know. Just to sort of prove that point, if I just come off Seesaw for a second and I just jump into the curriculum and I go to a year group, let's say year 3, just in the middle there, and I go to English. Okay, so the first part of every year group's English curriculum are those spoken language objectives, right? Now, it doesn't matter which year group, they're the same for every single one. Every year group starts. Now, if I was to ask you the question of how do you evidence these in a book? The simple answer is you can't. And what you found, because of this obsession with accountability in education, is that there are a lot of schools out there that don't even touch that aspect of the English curriculum. Why would I bother doing any of this when I'm judged by how many pages get filled in a book? I'm judged by someone looking through my, and it's ridiculous. And if you were to ask yourself, if you're a teacher in the UK, it might be different overseas, but especially in the UK with the system, the wonderful system that we work in, if you were to ask yourself seriously, do you give that aspect of the English curriculum as much weight, time, and value as you do everything else? I would put my house on the fact that the vast majority of you will be saying no, and I'm not judging you on there. This is just the system that we work in, unfortunately. So, using tools like Seesaw give you a way in which you can actually spend time doing drama lessons. You can spend time doing rich talk, because, you can't. Reading and writing floats on a sea of oracy. There is a reason why that is the first part of every year group's English curriculum, because it is the most important part. If you're not nailing that, you ain't getting anything else. And we find ourselves in situations where more children are starting school with speech and language difficulties, yet we don't prioritise a part of the curriculum that can help them. You look at bigger issues outside of education. The biggest killer of men under the age of 50 in the UK is suicide. On average, 12 men take their lives a day at the minute, take their own lives a day. 12, it's ridiculous. What do we need men to be doing more of? We need them to be talking. We need them to open up and discuss their feelings and emotions. But for the past few years, this obsession with accountability in education has been contributing to that wider society issue, because we're not prioritising the objectives that can instill a skill set in these young men. So again, this is for me a massive argument for why tools like Seesaw, and again, I'm not saying it has to be Seesaw, but I find that to be the easiest one to use. Because for me to evidence a piece of work, just as an example, if I press the plus button, you can see these 6 options here. So I can take a photo of the children's work or a photo of the children working. I can record a video. So if we're going to do a drama lesson where the children can do, a debate about a topic, I can capture that. If I want to capture the children reading their work aloud to work on that fluency, I can do. If the children create content in other apps, so if they want to create a video or if they want to create a presentation, they can then upload it and save it to their profiles. So initially we were using it as a way of evidencing all of our learning through the iPad. So whatever the children were creating on the iPad, we can do it that way. But actually, it's a tool that we use right across the curriculum. There's the drawing tools. So within the drawing tools, this is like having a sort of digital piece of paper. You've got all the drawings at the bottom. The children can upload pictures from their camera roll. So if, for example, this is what I was doing last week, some digital literacy around fake news, misinformation, and I was getting children to share some facts, beliefs, and opinions. But again, as a way of removing barriers for certain children, they don't necessarily have to type everything up. What they can do is they can press the 3 dots, choose the voice option, and record themselves talking through ideas. So 3 facts, 3 beliefs, 3 opinions can be their voices talking it through. So again, we remove those barriers and make it so much more accessible. Now, I could talk for hours about all the different benefits of Seesaw, just giving you a little bit of a taste here. But the mistake so many schools make, so, this was an example activity I did with Year 2 a while ago, where we were looking at sources from the Great Fire of London, different sources of information. And what the children had to do as a task was they log in. So all the children need to do to log into Seesaw is scan the QR code, and that logs them in. And then they can find the template that I've uploaded. So I've not spent my morning running around like a headless chicken, printing, photocopying, trimming worksheets to go in books. I can create something in a matter of seconds on Seesaw, and then the children can copy and edit that task and then complete it themselves. So what we were doing here is we were looking at different sources of information, and the children can do a voice recording attached to that picture where they are being historians. What is the object? Is it a primary or secondary source? What do we learn about the Great Fire? Is it therefore a useful piece of information? And children who might struggle to get those ideas down on paper can actually express their knowledge and understanding orally through these tools in Seesaw. And this is what technology should be doing. It should be transforming and taking us further than what we can do on paper. And these recording tools built into Seesaw, I think, really help with that. But the biggest mistake schools make, and this is where I feel it fails in a lot of schools, is if you want this to be a tool that helps you work smarter, not harder. And the reason I probably spent more time on this tool than some of the others is that I could sit here and give you 50 ideas of how you can use apps in the classroom. But if you don't have that big thing from our word cloud before, time to go and explore, to go and try these tools out, then the training's completely and utterly useless. You're not going to do any of it. So the reason I'm spending a little bit more on this is if you can implement a tool like Seesaw, and at the very least, just use it as a way of evidencing learning rather than wasting hours a week at the photocopier, printing, sticking stuff in books, you're going to have that time to which you can then reinvest to learn more about other apps and other tools. So the biggest mistake schools make is they'll buy the technology, they'll invest in all these different apps, tools, but if teachers don't have the time to explore, then it never works. And the mistake schools make with Seesaw is they don't let it replace what you were doing before. So if you've got a tool like Seesaw, then once you evidence something on Seesaw, you do not need to write, evidence, or print anything in the exercise book. We've got to move away from this mentality that the books are the be-all and end-all. Books are important, I'm not debating that, but they are not the only way in which you can evidence learning. So as a school, for the Seesaw to work and be effective, you have to treat it like a digital exercise book. So if something goes on Seesaw, it doesn't need to go in the exercise book in any way, shape or form, because no one is just going to look at your exercise book anymore. If you are going to do a book scrutiny, you've got to change the terminology so it includes everything. So when we do a learning, that's what we call them in our school, a learning review, and whoever was to walk in, whether it was Ofsted, local authority, SLT, they will take some of our books, of course, but then they'll also take the iPad. And through Seesaw, they can see everything that we've done on Seesaw alongside the books. And that is a way in which our staff have been given the license and the trust to teach a broad and balanced curriculum, because they're not hindered to only ever evidencing things in books. And the mistake some schools make, and it frustrates the hell out of me if I'm being honest with you, is that they'll sit through my training and they'll introduce Seesaw, but it's a case of, well, if you do put something on Seesaw, make sure you print and QR code it in the books. And therefore Seesaw never gets utilised, because if the teachers still have to stick something in the books, they might as well just do a piece of work in the books and get a worksheet from you know where, and again, create barriers for children and nothing moves forward. We've got to change the mentality. I can show you all these different apps, different tools, but if we don't change the way in which we've been working and we don't utilise these tools to save ourselves time, then nothing really works. And if, having a tool like this in place, then hopefully we'll give staff the time to explore the other tools we've looked at, whether it's Century, Mentimeter, Pickertail, Microsoft Office Lens, and all the other tools that I'd share and talk about on my website there. So again, I'm not saying you have to use Seesaw. I just think Seesaw is probably the best one suited to primary. I wouldn't necessarily say it's probably best for secondary. I would be looking at moving more towards the likes of Google Classroom for that. But having access to, and it works right across devices. So it's not just iPad based. You can use it online. You can use it on Chromebooks, whatever it might be. So have we got time for that one other extra little idea before I take any sort of questions? And like I say, if you've got any questions, we'll go through them shortly. Right. This is just a quick little fun idea that I've come across. Okay, so this is a website, but I'm going to give you a second here just to note down that web address, because I don't even know how to say it. Gaugen.org/Gaugen2. Right. AI and machine learning it blows my mind, some of the stuff the tech can do, and this is just quite a fun little activity. What you can do is you can, on the left-hand side, design a picture. Use the sort of Microsoft Paint tools to build a little bit of a picture. So you can see here that on the left-hand side, we've got building, ground, landscape, plant. So if I go on landscape, let's just put some clouds in the sky here, like so. Right, so we've got some clouds. I might put some mountains in the back as well. So I'm going to put some mountains like so. Let's just connect them there, and I might fill them in. There we go. So we've got some mountains. What else should we add? Should we add a river? Oh, no. Let's undo that. Let's add a river here, like so. We'll add some rocks next to the river. In fact, I might make that river a little bit bigger. This will all make sense in a second, guys. Let's get some more rocks. Oh, undo. Thank God for that undo button. Oh, let's try that again. I don't know what's gone on there. Right, so we'll fill that in. Right. What else can we add? Should we add a little building? So let's add a bridge. Should we add a bridge over the river? Why not? See what that comes out like. And I might add a little house here. I'm rushing this, so I've got enough time for the Q&A. Right, as you can see, I take this very seriously. Right, so pretty basic little painting there. But if I just check the box, okay, and then press the arrow, just see what it ends up doing on the right-hand side here. Right, it actually paints or creates a picture of that painting using AI. So it's not perfect because I've not got the, I don't know, do I need to add some grass in maybe? Maybe I've not quite, let's see what we got. Building, ground, yeah, that's what I need to do. Sand, stick some sand down. Sand here, sand there, sand there. Right, let's see what happens now. That changes it. There we go. That's a bit more, yeah, so I've got my house, I've got my mountains, I've got the clouds in the sky. And so, you know, just having a little bit of fun and showing the potential of sort of AI. But then children could design their own settings for a story. It's up to you. You can have quite, you know, good fun with that. It's just one that sort of blew my mind, the fact you can put that and then you get such an impressive sort of picture at the end. So I thought if I had time, I'd throw that one in there for you to have a little play around with as well. But yeah, just to recap before, if you've got any other questions to put in the Q&A, the 5 apps that we've sort of looked at, or the 5 tech tools, we've looked at Mentimeter, absolutely free. Do not have to pay for that one. Same with Pickertail, that's free. Century, you do have to pay for, and I'm sure the Century team will be able to talk you through prices and whether they do trials, all that sort of stuff. We've then looked at Microsoft Office Lens, which is an app that removes barriers, allow children to access text questions, and that is absolutely free. And then Seesaw as well, which is always, you know, is whenever I do training in schools, I spend quality time implementing Seesaw, because once that's in place, not only is it a platform that allows you to evidence all of your other work in computing or any other work you create on your devices, it can actually be a really effective sort of working smarter, not harder tool. And again, getting children to use the internet in a safe environment. Because remember, everything that they put on Seesaw is effectively stored online. So you can start having conversations about once things go online, they are there forever. You sort of never get them back. Right, so that does bring us to our Q&A. So I don't know if how this bit's going to work. Actually, have you looked through questions and gonna?
Yes, I have had a little look, Lee. But before we go on to the questions, just thank you so much for that. There were some absolutely fantastic tools there, and I'm really pleased that we've had time to have a look at the little bonus at the end there. I'll definitely be recommending a lot of those tools to my teacher friends for sure.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on to the Q&A. We've had a lot of questions in the chat. I guess first questions are about pick a tail. I think this one will be a very quick one to answer. Can pick a tail be accessed on a Chromebook?
As far as I'm aware, you can, because I think it's available on just through the web. So I'm assuming you can, but I'm not 100% sure.
Quite a quick one to try out, that one.
Yeah. I think, again, they're very, very good at answering any sort of questions. If there's anything you're unsure of, it might be that it's an app on the Chrome store. But I'm pretty sure you can use it right across. Let me just have a quick check. Oh no, it's not coming up as an app on the web store. Right, possibly not, but I thought it was available on the web because I can log in as a teacher on the web. I'm gonna maybe get in touch with Pick a Tail on that one. I'm just having a look on the website now, but yeah.
And another one about another couple, in fact, about pigtail. Yeah. I'm going to group them both together. How do they compare to Bug Club and Oxford Owl, if you've had experience of those two?
Little experience, to be honest. So I wouldn't know. I've not used Oxford Reading Owl. I know that's very popular, but I also know there is a price attached to it. So I think the fact that Pick a Tail's free, what I'd probably recommend doing is signing yourself up, giving it a go, and then you'll be able to compare it yourselves, because it depends exactly what you want from it. I'm not going to stand there and say it's necessarily better than Bug Club and Oxford Owl, because I know those two tools are great as well. But the fact that it's free and the fact you've got access to some of those books is worth checking out. And even if you just have a little trial with it to see how they do compare, and it may well be that it doesn't have as many features enabled. But I just thought I'd share it because obviously I know budgets are tight in schools. And so if there's something there that you can access for free, it's worth knowing about.
Yeah, I think anything that's free is always worth giving a go, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then
someone's put in the chat you can't access it through the web, so it must just be through the app for the children.
So just moving on to some Lens questions now. Do you know, is Lens available in Spanish? I know we've got some teachers joining us from Madrid. So.
Yeah, I think it has built-in translation available. So because it's Microsoft, so I think that is an option. Just have to try and So in the settings there is a translate option, so you can translate it. How accurate that is, I can't guarantee, because we've had some stories on the podcast about certain translation apps not quite working out well. There was a child in a class from Portugal, and so the teacher thought, the child bumped the head at playtime, had a little bump note, so the teacher thought it'd be a good idea to translate it to Portuguese for the parents, and it just didn't translate right. So they sent a message home to the parents saying, your child has drowned, we've given them a wet paper towel. And so the parents phoned up the school panicking, and it turns out it was just a mistranslation using whichever translation app they've used. So yeah, there is that built into it. So, but I'd say try. I'm sorry, I am absolutely. I'm in my little garden studio here, and because it's sunny outside, it is absolutely roasting. I'm sweating. I bet I look dead nervous doing this. It's not that I'm nervous. I'm in a cooker of a room at the minute. I do apologise for that, guys. I do apologise. Sorry. So yeah, it does have a translation tool built in. Yeah.
That translation to tail, that has tickled me, that one. Paper towel's good for most things, but not drowning.
Yeah.
And another one, I guess, in terms of accuracy, but more for English. How accurate do you find it in terms of identifying the vocabulary?
As in scanning it, or
yeah,
scanning it. It's one of the best ones. Yeah. Obviously, things will take what I'm trying to say here, like lighting in the room will affect it, but if it's a clearly well lit room, and then obviously the font of what you're scanning can sometimes impact. So if it's quite a tricky font, it can sometimes be a little bit temperamental, but genuinely, a sort of normal font that you use, it picks it up really, really well.
Brilliant. And moving on to some Century questions. So I might take those if that's okay. Is Century just for assessment, and does it contain content as well? I thought the easiest way to do this would just be to share my screen, and then I can give you a bit of a live demo answer to this one. So hopefully you can see this. So all of our content is in the form of nuggets. And a nugget is a mini lesson. So that provides all of the content for the students. So students just need to log in. They'll see all of their learning in their pathway here. If I just open up one of our nuggets, you'll be able to see the content. So we have video content. So I can play a little bit of this video for you.
Prepositions. A preposition is a linking word which tells us where, when, or why something happens. For example, in this sentence, the house is next to the tree, the preposition.
So there's the video content, and then from there, the students can move over to the assessment questions. So within a nugget, you've got the learning material and also the assessment questions. But within those questions, there's feedback as well. So if the students are struggling, then they can get that feedback straight away to help them to get on track with the next question. And then another Century related question that we had is, how can you make sure that the students are seeing content that's relevant to their level, where they're at? What Century does is it uses artificial intelligence to get to know the student, get to know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, so that it can tailor their learning experience on the platform. So imagine you've got a year 6 student, perhaps they've got gaps from year 5, 4, possibly even gaps from year 3. What Century can do is recommend the content that's going to help plug those gaps, but also recommend content that's going to stretch and challenge them that little bit further, if that's more appropriate. So just a mini demo of Century there. If you want to find out any more about Century, we'll share the website and you can take a look at the end of this. I'm going to stop sharing. I think we might have time for one last very quick question. Let's have a look. So a question about Gogan, because that sounds great to me. Can you upload a child's picture to that and change it into an AI image? Or do they have to create it on the app itself?
I think they have to. No, I think they can upload a sketch. I think there's an option to upload a picture themselves. So I do think that's an option. It's not one that I've tried yet. I've only used a drawing tool. But there's an option there where you can upload a picture yourself. So you can give that a go. Have a little bit of a play around with it.
Nice. Sorry we haven't had a chance to get through all of the questions, but thank you everybody for joining, and another huge thanks to Lee. That was a really wonderful presentation.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. If there are any other questions, if you send me a message on Facebook or Instagram, I'll try and get back to you. But no, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you found that useful. Hope you at least got one thing that you can take back to class tomorrow. And like I say, do check out Century. I get offered a lot of tools to use in the classroom, and I tend to only sort of speak fondly of the ones that I use myself. So it's been a great tool that we've used in class, and we've been rolling it out throughout the whole school over this year, and it's had a huge impact. So yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
Brilliant. Thanks everybody.
Bye.